You blinked and missed it, but Wednesday Season 2 did something genius with Enid, and almost no one is talking about it. You know that character who seemed like just the bubbly, colorful best friend to our favorite goth girl? Yeah. Enid always had way more going on beneath the surface than we gave her credit for. And in this second season, the show finally cracked her head and heart wide open for us. And the result was just as intense as it was surprising. From the very start, Enid was that cheerful little werewolf, full of glitter and good vibes, but hiding a painful truth she rarely let show. She still hadn't transformed. In a world where being a werewolf isn't just a physical trait, it's a rite of passage, a symbol of belonging and identity that left a gaping hole right in the center of her soul. But it was never just about power. It never was. What Enid really wanted was to belong. She grew up hearing that wolves need a pack, that alone they're lost. And here's the heartache. Everyone around her had already made the transition, except her. Imagine that pressure. The fear of being left behind, of being seen as less wolf, less part of the group, not enough, that eats you alive. And then comes that one scene that seems small, but is actually an emotional bomb in disguise. Wednesday, with all her poetic coldness, says that living alone is a gift. And we kinda get her point. But for Enid, that was like hearing that your worst nightmare is actually your best friend's idea of a happy ending. While Wednesday sees freedom, Enid sees abandonment. And that says so much about how these two characters see the world, pain, and especially loneliness. Now hold on to this. When Enid finally goes through her transformation, when she realizes she has the potential to be an alpha, yes, a born leader, the most powerful among the wolves, what do you expect? An epic celebration? A triumphant moment of glory? Nope, none of that. She doesn't smile, doesn't cheer, doesn't even recognize herself. Because that title, instead of empowering her, it terrifies her. The girl who spent her whole life trying to fit in is now scared of standing on top. Because being an alpha isn't just about strength. It's about responsibility. It's about being lonelier than ever. The show didn't shove this in our faces with dramatic speeches or flashy monologues. It let us feel it. Pure emotional buildup. A journey about identity, fear, and belonging, all tucked inside what seemed like a basic werewolf storyline. But if you look closer, it's one of the richest arcs of the season. And that's exactly when we start to realize just how deep Enid's pain runs, and how it's hidden in every gesture, every silence, every choice that seems small but carries a world of meaning underneath. Look closely. Every time she gets close to someone, there's always a hesitation, a carefulness, like she's tiptoeing on emotional thin ice. And this plays out directly in her relationship with Ajax, that romance that started off light, fun, with that unlikely couple who totally works energy, but in season 2, it just stalls. Not because the feelings are gone, but because her insecurity gets louder. Enid wants to give in, to live that love fully, but what really haunts her is the idea that growing up, transforming, becoming something bigger might mean leaving others behind. Or worse, that they might leave her. It's that fear of being too much to fit in someone else's heart, of becoming that person you admire, but who feels unreachable, untouchable. And then it hits you. It's not just about being a werewolf. It's about being too human, about that visceral need to hold on to your connections, even when everything around you seems to pull you apart. Enid doesn't want to rule the pack. She just wants the pack to stay by her side. And that's what turns Enid's entire arc into this amazing metaphor about what it really means to grow up, to discover who you are, while desperately trying not to lose who you used to be. Her whole journey is like a silent scream. I can change, just please don't leave me behind. And just when we thought the story was heading toward that sweet little romance between the Sunshine Werewolf and the Shy Gorgon, the show throws a wild new card on the table and flips everything. Because here's the thing, Ajax was the unexpected fit that somehow worked. He's got that endearing, slightly clumsy mystery vibe that pairs perfectly with Enid's radiant, chaotic energy. And the best part? They're completely different. He's a Gorgon, she's a werewolf, and it's never an issue. No cheesy, forbidden love tropes. No forced drama. They just click, naturally, effortlessly. It's sweet, almost like the universe whispering, relax, this is the safe part of the story. But then comes the season 1 finale and, boom, Enid finally transforms. And it's not for herself. She transforms for Wednesday. In a moment of bravery that's also filled with love, loyalty, and complete emotional surrender. It's one of those goosebump scenes, because that's when Enid stops chasing everyone else's approval and just becomes. She stops being the girl who wasn't there yet and fully steps into being the wolf she is. And that changes everything, because now, she belongs. Officially, spiritually, emotionally, she's no longer the outlier, and that brings a whole new weight, a sense of identity she's never felt before. It's not just some growing up and moving on moment. It's the kind of maturity that alters the way you see yourself in the mirror. And then enters Bruno. Bruno is the opposite of Ajax, a werewolf like her, but not just any werewolf. The last one to transform, just like she was. Isolated, awkward, almost invisible at first glance, but carrying a pain that Enid recognizes instantly. He's not more charming than Ajax. He doesn't have that sweet supernatural school boyfriend sparkle, but he has something that screams inside her, a mirror. Bruno is who she could have been if she'd stayed stuck in that pre-transformation limbo. And at the same time, he shows her something powerful, that there's a way to live as a werewolf without losing your softness, without becoming distant, without ending up alone. He's living proof that maybe she doesn't have to choose between her heart and her pack. That maybe, just maybe, she can be all of it, everything she became, and still love, still connect, still belong. So no, this isn't about a cliché love triangle. It's about identity, emotional mirrors, and the 1,000 ways we try not to lose ourselves when everything around us changes. Bruno's presence doesn't erase Ajax. It just shines a light on Enid's inner conflict. And that's where we get to a layer of Enid that a lot of people might miss, but that's deeply human, that emotional confusion that comes with growing up. Because let's be real, growing up is messy. Emotions shift and reshape like a shapeshifter having an existential crisis. And with Enid, it's no different. After transforming, finding her pack, and finally understanding what true belonging feels like, it's only natural that she starts seeing the world differently, including Ajax, that romance that once felt like a cute fanfic Gorgon and werewolf falling in love against all odds, starts to lose its sparkle. Not because of drama, betrayal, or disappointment, just because she's changed. It's that classic coming-of-age moment. You look at something that made sense yesterday and think, wait, does it still make sense today? And that's okay. It's valid. The real issue is how she handles it. Because instead of talking, instead of being honest and saying, hey, I like you, but something inside me shifted, she goes quiet. She disappears. She leaves Ajax hanging in the middle of the story, a giant question mark on his forehead. And that hurts, not just for him, but for us, the ones who know Enid's big, golden heart. And when things start to fall apart with Bruno, when she finds out he was hiding things from her, the frustration hits twice as hard. Because the new, which once felt so full of possibility, turns into another emotional weight. And Enid finds herself spiraling back into the place she feared most, being alone. And it's right in the middle of this emotional chaos that the most unexpected event of the season happens, the body swap with Wednesday. And there's no way to see it as anything other than a major turning point. Enid literally steps into someone else's shoes, into her eyes, her steps, her visions, and it's there, living life through her best friend's lens, that she finally sees herself from the outside. She realizes that the fear of being alone has been steering too many of her choices, that a lot of what she's done, especially in her relationships, were desperate attempts to fill a void, as if a boyfriend could fix the emptiness she was feeling inside. And look, all of this helps us understand her emotional journey so much better. But there's one thing we can't overlook. She should have been honest with Ajax. Because no matter how much feelings change, how paths diverge, how hearts drift apart, respect and honesty are still the bare minimum. Ajax deserved more. He deserved a conversation, an explanation, a proper ending, not the silence of someone who turned the page without telling him the chapter was still being read. And that, even if it doesn't define Enid, marks this season as a major turning point in her character arc, which leads us right into one of the most gut-punching moments of the whole season, the scene with Agnes. It's not just some tense showdown between villain and heroine. It's an emotional catalyst, ripping out of Enid a fear that runs even deeper than death, the fear of being alone. Right away, Enid reacts just like we'd expect, fight mode, instincts on fire. And it makes sense. Agnes didn't just show up uninvited and threaten everything. She did it at a moment when things between Enid and Wednesday were already on shaky ground. But what really breaks Enid in that scene isn't the physical threat. It's that feeling that something's off between them, that this bond she fought so hard to build is suddenly quiet. And while Enid is twisting herself into knots trying to figure out what's going on, watching from the other side of the screen, already know the bomb that's about to drop. Wednesday had a vision. One of those dark, haunting ones she never wants anyone else to see. And in that vision, Enid dies. But in true poetic goth fashion, Wednesday chooses to deal with it alone. She pulls away, goes cold, retreats into her own shadows. Because for her, loving someone means hiding the pain. It means trying to control the inevitable. It means protecting by pushing them away. The problem? Enid is the exact opposite. Enid needs connection, not out of weakness, but because that's how she builds the bonds that hold her up. She craves closeness, clear words, warmth, not because she's fragile, but because this is how she loves, how she lives. So when Wednesday starts pulling away, emotionally, physically, that cold, poetic fade-out only she knows how to do, Enid hears that old, haunting echo rise up inside her again. You're not enough. And honestly, that's the magic, or better yet, the beautiful chaos of their friendship. It's like watching two completely different languages trying to translate each other by force. Wednesday is silence. Enid is expression. One loves by protecting, the other loves by being there. And this disconnect between them? It's not some screenwriter's invention. It's pure, raw, real life. Who hasn't been through a friendship where silence hurt more than any fight? What cuts the deepest is that, even after everything they've been through, Enid still carries this quiet, constant fear of being left behind. And Wednesday, with her chronic inability to show affection in any way that resembles emotional warmth, unknowingly triggers that fear over and over again. But then comes the part that wrecks us. When the truth finally comes out, when Enid understands the reason behind the distance, the coldness, the fear, she doesn't lash out. She doesn't break down. She gets it because, in the end, the fear of losing someone you love is stronger than any temporary hurt. Even if it was all said in the most twisted way possible, even if the protection came in the iciest, most distant form imaginable, Enid sees through it. It wasn't fear of Agnes. It was fear of losing the one person in the world who makes her feel like she truly belongs. And it's in that raw, quiet moment of vulnerability that everything clicks. This friendship survives not because it's easy, but because they keep choosing each other, even when the world, the visions, and their own fears scream otherwise. When season 2 kicked off, I'll be real, I was nervous about where they were taking Enid. At first, she felt dimmed, like a faded version of the powerhouse we fell in love with. Almost like she was just a side note to the whole Bruno romance. The Enid we knew always lit up every scene, and suddenly she was just there, like she was slowly losing herself. And while that was happening, Agnes came in like a storm, intense, magnetic, mysterious, making Enid's distance from herself even more obvious. You could feel the disconnection, not just from Ajax or Bruno, but from herself. All of it rooted in that same old fear, not belonging, being alone. But then, boom, the body swap. It could have been played for laughs, a little supernatural gag to lighten the mood. But nope, it became the emotional reset button of the season. Inside Wednesday's body, Enid literally sees the world through her eyes. And suddenly she understands that Wednesday wasn't pushing her away out of coldness, but out of fear. Fear of losing her, fear of caring too much. And more importantly, Enid finds her own kind of strength. Not the werewolf power, but the quiet, stubborn strength of moving forward even when no one gets you. The strength of holding on to yourself when the world keeps shifting under your feet. Then comes the climax, the big transformation moment where Enid chooses to save Wednesday. And it's not just a heroic act. It's a loud, unspoken declaration. I see you. I still choose you. It's not just a wolf saving her best friend. It's a girl choosing who she wants to be and who she wants by her side. So if Enid continues her journey as a werewolf in season 3, don't see it as a loss of innocence. See it as a beginning, a chance to dive deeper into this new version of her, one who's finally ready to accept all of herself and grow on her own terms.